Most of us take barns for granted. They are just there, behind a farmhouse or in a nearby field. They are relics of an earlier day, like dresses in your grandmother's attic. Most of them are old, shabby, with a few boards missing, like the lost teeth in an old man's smile. They may still hold winter hay for a small herd of cattle, but the sturdy horses that powered the farm machinery are gone. Old tractors sitting in the barnyard have replaced them. In recent years, the restoration of old houses has become very popular. A few forward-looking people are restoring old barns, saving a valuable part of Americana for future generations. Like early American patchwork quilts, these barns were constructed by the user-builder out of the materials he had at hand. This huge, high barn, with its hand-hewn timbers, was built several generations ago by a German pioneer in the Love Creek area. It is now owned by the Alford family, who are in the process of restoring it. You can see here some of the hand-hewn beams, which give a peculiar beauty to an old barn like this. This smaller barn, too, belongs to the Alfords. Almost all cattle ranchers brand their cattle. A few also brand their barns, like this old building on the Kramer Ranch outside Murphy's, once part of the old Schwerer Ranch. Across the grade road is the old Snyder barn, which now belongs to Dr. Smith. The old Snyder barn. This white barn on the 6 Mile Road was built by Matt Manuel a couple of generations ago, in place of an earlier barn on his ranch, which had burned down. Tucked in against the hills above the 6 Mile Road is this tiny farm with its little barn that probably houses a couple of well-loved horses and a cow or two. On Highway 49, near San Andreas, this miniature barn, in its festive Christmas attire, has been a home for 2 horses and a pony. And in Jenny Lind, this tiny barn with its steep sharp roof holds food for an animal or two. Coming along the Murphy's Grade Road on a late afternoon, drivers enjoy the sight of this barn with the late sunshine on its old wood. This well-built barn in Jenny Lind, probably of redwood, like the fine old house nearby, was in earlier days part of the Meyer property. One can imagine the amount of hay that has been hauled through this door. The next few pictures show the beautifully preserved Gregory barn, not far from Jenny Lind. Wood for this barn was brought by train on 2 freight cars to Milton, and then hauled by wagon to the present site. It was here when the present owner's great-grandfather took up the property. It has an immense hay storage, as well as room for several wagons. The beautiful pattern of this ventilating system reminds one of stained glass windows in some way. Two old hitching posts. It would be interesting to know how many horses have been tied up here over the years. The grain stored in these buildings was raised on the ranch and used for feeding pigs. Very chic and quite modern, this lovely barn expresses the joy of people who have finally moved to the country from some less appealing area. The old and the new. These barns near Wallace represent two different generations, both still in use. Observe the skylights in the roof of the new barn. And notice how the wind is blowing the day we took these pictures. Another recently built barn is the fine big metal one on the Couch farm in Murphy's. It is a great sight when it is bursting with hay, ready for winter feeding. Across the county, outside Moke Hill, this Del Orto barn, also reasonably new, provides storage for a large amount of hay, which can be hauled from here to other Del Orto ranches. On a nearby hilltop, a second barn, older and more traditional in shape, looks proud and rather lonely. Also on a hilltop, this barn near San Andreas once belonged to the late beloved Judge Smith. This little white barn seems very contented on its hilltop. Nearby is this sad little ruin with its roof caved in. Old barns are an endangered species. The wind and the weather are slowly taking their toll. Once lovely barns like these will soon be a pile of rotting lumber to be burned or hauled away. What they were and what they stood for are gone. Cynics would say, like a good many other of our pioneer virtues. On the other hand, there is this well-kept barn in Murphy's Ranch, often seen in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. This barn on the Wolf Ranch on the French Gulch Road, seen here from two vantage points, has an especially lovely setting. During the middle 50s, this red feed barn was built on a hilltop above Murphy's on the Kramer Ranch. Some people said the house should have been built here and the barn at the bottom of the hill. Across the grade road, this rusty red barn, built by John Dragoni, clings to the hillside, still holding feed for cattle in the steep field below it. The next two barns, between San Andreas and Moke Hill, are not yet retired. They are both part of an active ranch life. Somewhat forlorn and surrounded by weeds, this barn seems to have outlived its usefulness. What becomes of old barns like this? Pretty as a picture on a calendar, this barn is on the long hill near the Double Springs Monument. In San Andreas, on a steep bank across from Treat's store, this house was once a barn. And in Douglas Flat, belonging to the Langs, is this attractive modern barn-turned garage housing a tractor, a workshop, with an apartment upstairs. People drive through the country without really looking at what they see, without caring. Take a look. Barns are beautiful. They are an important part of our social and architectural history. And here is a barn to look at, old, graceful, with grapevines growing over it, like a symbol of ever-recurring life. It is a proud barn. Many artists have seen some special quality in it. As its owner, Mr. Johnson, points to the clusters of grapes, we are aware of its beauty. And in the open shed, on the other side, we see the carefully ordered storage of things useful to the owners. Study the details in these old buildings. The hand-forged hook latched not in an eye, but between two nails. The weathered wood being slowly eroded by the rain. And the beautiful abstract patterns in the weathered boards. In old houses and old barns, we can read some of the history of ourselves and of our great country. In recent years, a good many fine books have been written on the subject of barns. The four shown here are all readily available in your branch public library. This one, by artist Eric Sloan, has some beautiful barn paintings. And the one above, by a man who traveled the length and breadth of California to do these sketches, is quite interesting to Californians. This book probably has the most complete history of barns through the ages. It's a thick book and very interesting.